What's up, everybody? Demon back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla King of the Monsters news and updates. Editing is going to be pretty minimalistic in this video. It's just going to be a box office report for Godzilla King of the Monsters. I didn't even want to do one of these videos because although I would have celebrated it if the box office was incredible, you know, if we made somehow Endgame-esque money, which we were never going to, I would have totally done a whole video to celebrate it, but I was just going to push this into like other news and updates. But I wanted to make a full video addressing the box office because I understand there are some concerns, and if you have followed me on Twitter, you have seen that I'm really not concerned. You have in fact seen me being the exact opposite. I am 100% okay with the box office. This actually doesn't mean I'm 100% okay with it. I would have liked it to be better. I would have liked it to be a smash hit, and it isn't. But also, I'm not worried. These box office numbers do not spook me like they spook a lot of Godzilla fans. And unlike a lot of Godzilla fans, I haven't given up either. I still think there's a lot of hope for the MonsterVerse. I'm gonna be your beacon of hope, Godzilla fans. If you have seen my videos ever since the movie has come out, you will know that I am completely confident in the MonsterVerse. I think that it has a great future ahead of it, and I am confident that they will achieve a version of that future. Maybe they're not going to go with tons of spin-offs. Maybe they are just going to go with Godzilla vs. Kong and potentially another one movie after that. Who knows? I don't. But I still think there is a future left in the MonsterVerse. I see a lot of potential in it, and I think they are going to try and realize that potential. I'll do some videos coming up about where we can start cutting costs in terms of making these movies a little more efficient. Let's talk about the box office for Godzilla King of the Monsters, because I know it's got a lot of people freaked out, and I just want to try and quell some of your fears here. I'm just going to track the history of the box office here really fast. The movie opened up in China before it opened up anywhere else. It opened up with 21 million, which was incredibly good. That is a great opening in China, better than we thought it was going to be. It was 86% higher than 2014's opening in China. Same thing with Japan, an $8.5 million opening in Japan. And now you might go, wow, that doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. Keep in mind how small of a market Japan is. It's small compared to the US and China. 8.5 was really good. It was 33% ahead of Godzilla 2014, and surprisingly, it was doing 8% better than Shin Godzilla was, and it still holds through in Japan and China. Both countries seem to really like Godzilla. The USA, this is where things get complicated because other foreign markets aren't really as worthy of reporting on. The USA is where things get complicated. You got a $6.3 million opening night. That was Thursday night, so that's your previews. Friday night and the rest of the weekend pushes us up to 49 million domestic. According to some sources, other sources have it a little bit lower, but 49 million domestic with a 179 million overall worldwide total. You might remember King of the Monsters was estimated to open at 50 to 55 million, and it came in at 49, so just below where it was supposed to open, on the tail end of its estimations. Again, it's not doing amazing compared to what we thought it was going to do, but it's not horrible. 49 million compared to 50 million, that is not bad. 179 million opening weekend also is not a disaster either. I know a lot of people have said, oh, that is just marks the end of the MonsterVerse. No, it doesn't. That is not a bad opening weekend overall. It still was the #1 movie in the world. I want to say that second weekend for Godzilla is this weekend. It's just not a good weekend for movies in general. I mean, you look at the movies that have come out these past few weeks. Aladdin is successful, but it wasn't as successful as they wanted it to be. The only movie that I can think of that overperformed last was John Wick. So since John Wick, I don't think we've had very many overperformers. We've had movies coming in at the low end of their estimations or have just completely failed to meet them altogether. Godzilla is part of that trend, which is a bummer, but it just seems like this is not the time for movie-going audiences. I think they're a bit burnt out due to the MCU. I think the MCU just kind of steals everyone's attention and money, and then after that, no one has any care or money left over for anything else, which is a big problem. It's not just the MCU, it's also Disney in general, because you also have Aladdin, and then all your other Disney live-action films do particularly well. So there's kind of this Disney monopoly being built up here in Hollywood that isn't great, but there's still hope. All right, so second weekend for Godzilla, domestically, it got $15.54 million. Not great. That brings us to a total of 78.6 million domestic total. It had a 67% drop in its second weekend, which again, that's not a good hold. And Kong's was in the 50s, which I think is interesting. As much as Godzilla seems to be a more popular character, he's certainly at the forefront of more conversations. Godzilla fans, or the kaiju fandom in general, likes Godzilla more. Obviously, Godzilla fans like him more, but kaiju fandom in general likes Godzilla more than Kong. People generally consider him to be more of a popular character. More normies latched on to Godzilla King of the Monsters than they did to Kong Skull Island. And yet Kong still proves to be a more consistent player. He's not a higher grossing player at the box office as Godzilla 2014 proved, but he seems to be more consistent. So it'll be interesting to see if he can bring that consistency to the table with Godzilla vs. Kong next year. We have a $14.71 million second weekend internationally, bringing us to $213.7 million total. And some people might be freaking out because I think 73% of the movie's current box office is foreign markets, but the MonsterVerse has always had this. 70% of the MonsterVerse income has always come from foreign markets. That just seems to be the way it goes at the box office. I actually really wish I had pulled up the Pacific Rim numbers really quick before I started recording, because I'm not going to do it now, but I have a feeling that Godzilla is doing better than Uprising did. That would be my guess. I still feel like it might not be doing better than Pacific Rim, the first one, but I don't know. I didn't have those numbers pulled up, so I apologize for that. But I want to say that kaiju movies in general have proven to not be the most profitable in the world. Pacific Rim didn't do particularly amazing. Its Chinese box office is the only reason it got a sequel. Pacific Rim Uprising didn't do particularly well either. Rampage didn't kill it at the box office either. Just seems like Americans can't wrap their heads around kaiju movies like the foreign markets can, and I don't know why. Godzilla King of the Monsters overall total as of my time of recording this is $292,297,097. So it's not amazing. I mean, it could be better, but it's also not horrible. It's nearly $300 million, and as we'll talk about here in a minute, that is what we need, okay? I think next weekend we'll finally push the movie into breaking even, because Godzilla King of the Monsters was reported to have a $170 million budget. Again, I said we don't necessarily need the world's biggest budgets for these movies. I mean, look at what Shin Godzilla accomplished. They accomplished a lot with very little, but it had a $170 million budget that it made back within its first weekend domestically, so it already made the movie back. Now you might be wondering, why haven't we broken even yet? If you don't really know, it's because we need to break even with marketing. So usually what we do with movies like this is you take the movie's budget and then multiply it by 2, and that covers for marketing and everything else. So we need the movie to make over $340 million in the box office to break even. I do have faith that the movie will do that, and that doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily a box office smash hit, right? But at least it won't be unprofitable. It will be profitable, just not a lot. It won't make a lot of money, but it'll still make money. And I know a lot of people are freaking out when comparing this to previous MonsterVerse entries, but let's take a look at the previous MonsterVerse, shall we? Godzilla 2014's box office. It opened with $93 million domestic. There was no way Godzilla King of the Monsters was ever going to do this. There was no way any MonsterVerse movie, I think, is ever going to do this. Even Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't anticipate is going to make $93 million opening weekend, and I'll tell you why. There was something special about Godzilla 2014. It was this out-of-nowhere film. There hadn't been a Godzilla movie in 10 years. People were interested to see it. It was coming right off the success of Breaking Bad, starring Bryan Cranston. He was in the ads. It was incredibly well marketed. Something that I think the rest of the MonsterVerse needs to start taking notes from was the 2014 marketing. It was incredibly well marketed. It was just this perfect storm. No one really saw it coming. And the reason the rest of the MonsterVerse hasn't done as well is, first of all, because now we've seen it. It's no longer this big event. It's no longer the first Godzilla movie in 10 years. It's just another Godzilla movie. The other reason that Godzilla King of the Monsters was never going to make Godzilla money at the box office was because Godzilla was not a totally well-received movie. It was very 50-50. I mean, critics liked it. Audiences didn't like it. A lot of audiences were very split. You see that still in the Godzilla fan base. You have lots of people that love it, but you either love it or you hate it, because you have lots of people that hate it. It's that percentage of people that hate it that didn't come back to see Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is why we saw the box office drop between the two films. Godzilla 2014 made $529 million total at the box office in the end of the day. I don't think Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to reach that number. Kong Skull Island didn't reach that number either. Kong Skull Island opened with $61 million, which is still better than Godzilla King of the Monsters and worse than Godzilla 2014, but it made $61 million opening weekend domestic, and then it ended with $566 million total. I'd be interested to see if Godzilla King of the Monsters will reach that number. I don't think it will. I would assume Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to come between the 400 to 500 range. I don't think it's going to totally pass that 500 million range, but I would hope it does. I hope it does. I just don't see it crossing Kong. I think it will be the lowest grossing MonsterVerse film. Godzilla King of the Monsters, of course, opened with $47 million domestic, 49 if you check other sources. It's kind of all up in the air. No one reports the same things, do they? Opened with 47 to 49 million domestic, and it is currently sitting at 292 million total. It's 292 million again. We are almost there. We have almost made it to the 340 million mark that we need to break even. I think Godzilla King of the Monsters can do it. It'll just be interesting to see how long it takes to do so. I think what this movie really needs is a second rally from Godzilla fans, a call to arms, so to speak. All of us need to go back and see the movie. I'm, of course, going again. I know people like Lenny Romero's seen the movie like 17 times. That guy's crazy. But we all got to go see the movie again. Bring people who aren't Godzilla fans. Bring some normies, bring your friends, your relatives. I've brought so many friends to the movie. I brought relatives to the movie that don't care about Godzilla. Go see this movie as many times as humanly possible, and we can save the MonsterVerse single-handedly. Let's do it together. How many memes there are of that. Godzilla fans trying to save the MonsterVerse. We can do it. I believe in us. We just gotta stop using dumb arguments like, well, no one goes to watch a movie for the human plot, because yeah, they do. Come on, don't do that. To quell your fears even more, I would like to talk about the MCU for a moment, because the MCU is the most profitable franchise of all time. I mean, just come on, it is. It is the biggest franchise ever, and you can make your arguments for Star Wars. I can see that. But I think the MCU is the current day Star Wars, and I think a lot of people feel that way. The MCU is just massively popular. It kicked off the cinematic universe trend in Hollywood. It is breaking records every day now. And I think this is really important because we have to think about where it started. The first Iron Man didn't make a heck of a lot more than Godzilla 2014. It made more, but it didn't make tons more. And you have a movie like The Incredible Hulk that comes out afterward, and The Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Captain America: The First Avenger, all of them faltered at the box office. And this is part of, again, the biggest franchise of all time. All of them faltered at the box office. The Incredible Hulk is particularly interesting because it opened with 55 million, which is higher than Godzilla King of the Monsters opening. It's almost as high as Kong Skull Island's opening, but it opened with 55 million domestic, and it only made 263 million worldwide. Godzilla King of the Monsters has already grossed more than The Incredible Hulk did in its entire theatrical run, and Godzilla's only been out for 1 full week. Come on, that is not bad. Again, it's part of the largest franchise ever. Avengers Endgame crossed $1 billion worldwide opening weekend alone. It is currently sitting at 2.7 billion worldwide, the second highest grossing film of all time. It's just insane to think about where you start and where you end up. And I know that Incredible Hulk was done by different studios, done by Universal, and Paramount was doing the other MCU movies at the time, but that's neither here nor there. What matters is the end of the day. And in the end of the day, Godzilla's already done better than one of the movies in the most successful franchise ever. I'm just saying that the MonsterVerse is still young. It still has time to falter because it's developing. We can cut some costs down the line, and I absolutely believe there is cost to be cut, but overall, this isn't horrible. It's not the end of the day for the MonsterVerse. There is still hope. Godzilla vs. Kong, I do anticipate will make more money than Godzilla King of the Monsters because of the novelty of it. I think it'll make more money than Kong Skull Island because of the novelty of it. I don't think it'll make more than Godzilla 2014, but I could be wrong. And as I said in previous videos, I happen to know that Legendary is not upset about the opening numbers for Godzilla King of the Monsters, and they have come out and confirmed this publicly now, stating that they aren't thrilled with the box office. They are slightly disappointed, they say, but they are also not worried because they are thinking long term here. And in the long term, Legendary sees that the franchise does have hope and that this is just a step along the way. They say they are still trying to build that bigger franchise, again hinting to potential beyond Godzilla vs. Kong. And Legendary Producers has also contributed to this sentiment that if these movies do well, or if these movies do as well as they want them to, we don't actually know what they want them to do, they will continue to make more. And they are not aiming for American audiences, they are aiming for international audiences. So domestic total is not even their primary target. So Legendary isn't worried. We do have to worry though because Warner Brothers overreacts. Famously, Warner Brothers infamously overreacts. Look at what they did to Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad. They famously overreact when they don't get the news they want to hear. And so we do have to worry because Warner Brothers has confirmed that they will be pushing back the date for Godzilla vs. Kong. Don't push it back to May. We don't want that much competition. Throw it in August, September. The movie will do well there, I'm sure. Don't wait until December because you don't want to compete with the December movies. I think March is safe. I guess they don't, so move it back to August. I don't know. We just have to worry about Warner Brothers reshooting the entire film, but even if they do, Godzilla King of the Monsters went under a lot of reshoots as well. I know a lot of people were worried about that back 2 years ago when it happened, but I think the movie turned out fine. I'm Future D-Man. I'm recording this just to let you guys know that I looked it up and I did confirm that Godzilla King of the Monsters is doing better than both Pacific Rim movies, so we're fine. We're safe. So that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. D-Man out.